Good evening. It's hard to measure cool, that X factor that gives a person or city a certain cachet. But today's announcement that the MBTA will keep some weekend trains and buses running till 3 a.m. next year could give Boston a little more edge. Officials say the expansion will boost the economy, but it's also aimed at making the city more vibrant. And the vast majority of the riders we spoke with say it's about time.
I think that's an excellent idea. I wonder why it's taken so long, really, to have the city catch up to the nightlife.
The bars get out later than the train runs. I think that's totally, it's like promoting drunk driving, so I think that's great. I think it'll have a good effect.
It'll obviously help businesses and, commuters in general, because a lot of people work much longer than the 1 a.m. / 1:30 a.m. closing time.
Nothing good happens after midnight.
They might need a little more security, being later night with a late night crowd and stuff, but I'm all for it.
I mean, I'm not really out that late anymore, but if ever I am, it's good to know that it's available.
All right, well, it might be popular, but the T's late night service won't come cheap. The state pegs the annual cost at about $20 million. Local businesses will subsidize that for the first year, but if the program is renewed, late-night riders should brace for higher fares. I'm joined now by a big proponent of late-night T service. Richard Davey is the Massachusetts Transportation Secretary, and welcome.
Thank you, Emily. Appreciate you having me.
So, you've tried this before. We had the Night Owl back in 2001, and it was a bust because you didn't have enough riders.
Yeah, and we were running buses at the time, too. And this time, we're obviously going to be running trains. I also think with the new technologies we have, the countdown signs, and folks using their iPhones, they can actually see when trains and buses are coming. So we expect it to be a success. And as you heard today, it's very much what we've heard over the last several months, which is our customers want more, and that included weekend later night service.
So the subsidies, how's that going to work? I mean, I was a little stunned to see that the Boston Globe is coming up with $500,000. Struck me as a bit of a conflict of interest, but hey, well, that's their business. But, how's that going to work? Is it going to be called the Boston Globe T-Ride? Or?
Sure. No. So we're going to look at advertising, obviously, allow them to be a media sponsor. By the way, GBH is more than welcome to sponsor as well tonight. But obviously, we're looking for big brands here in Massachusetts and in the Boston area. And there are many brands who wish to really, I think, continue to cultivate younger folks. I mean, obviously, the folks you talked to earlier seem to be younger. And so there are markets that I think want to tap younger folks as well. So we'll look for those kinds of brands to associate. But there's been a lot of interest, which is good news. The Globe happened to be the first that we were able to nail down before the announcement. So
one-year experiment, what is the measure of success?
It's a great question. So certainly the ridership will be one. We will be getting customer feedback to see. I don't expect what we rolled out, which will be all subway service, and then the top 15 bus routes will be perfect. I think some bus routes may be the right ones, and others we may have to change. So I expect this to be a dynamic process. And then we'll ask for customer feedback as well. And then also businesses, too. So whether it's bars and restaurants or, frankly, those blue-collar workers that may be working late into the night, there'll be a number of ways we can measure success. But at the end of the day, given what we've heard so far, I expect it will be successful.
And how about how many trains and which bus routes will it be?
So about 15 bus routes from the number 1 to the number 77. Some of our more highly utilized bus routes today, obviously folks can check on our website. The service itself will run out next spring. And then on bus T service, subway service, we'll run it every probably 10 to 15 minutes. And again, the countdown signs will have that information for folks.
You're experimenting with a lot of things that technology is now allowing you to do. I was just remarking that the signage on not just the Mass Pike, but some of the other roads, it tells you how far it is to get someplace and how much traffic there is. What do you think of some of these proposals? The Globe editorialized about staggered fees for the Mass Pike. If you're commuting 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., you pay a certain fee. If you do other hours, you pay less.
Yeah, well, I think we have to have everything on the table because we're not building any more superhighways in Massachusetts, period. We don't have the room. That's not the policy that we're articulating when it comes to greenhouse gas emissions. So we have to find a way to improve transit, the T, whether it's through expansion or capacity. And on the highway side, improve efficiency through capacity but not expansion. And that includes potentially things like congestion pricing, which the Globe raised. No one in the United States has rolled that out yet, but it's been widely successful in places like London and Singapore and Copenhagen. So, Stockholm, excuse me. So we're going to be looking at other techniques like that, no doubt, but certainly putting up all electronic tolling, which we're moving on now, will allow us to do those kinds of things in the future.
We have such a 9-to-5 mindset here, not just in Massachusetts, but all across the country. Is there a way to change that so that everybody isn't doing the same thing at the exact same time?
Well, I think it's, that mindset's really shifting, which is why, in part, I'm convinced that Night Owl this time will work, because the demographic of folks who are working here in the city, the kind of hours they keep, we're much more of a 24-hour city, particularly when it comes to business. We're doing business with folks all across the globe. So that's what we've heard a lot from entrepreneurs, from the tech community, that they're looking to go out and have dinner at 11 o'clock at night, at midnight in some instances. And one of the ways that they were prohibited from doing that was the fact that they didn't have good transit services. So, if we want to be a world-class city, if we want to be a place that attracts the kind of technology employees and others, having late-night service on weekends is just another way we can do that.
All right, we look forward to it. Rich Davey, when does it start?
Probably March. We'll roll out a date in January for sure. But there's a lot of work we have to do, but we will get it done for this spring.
All right, Rich Davey, thanks for coming.
Thank you.